All right, joining me now is the aforementioned Cassandra Burke Robinson. She's a law professor at the Case Western Reserve University School of Law and director of the Center for Professional Ethics. Dean Obeidallah is a host of the Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM, author of the Dean's Report on Substack, and columnist for the MSNBC Daily Newsletter. Before we start, just a heads up, we are continuing to wait for any updates out of this tragic story in Texas. We'll bring you anything that we get as we get it. Cassandra, thank you for joining us. I don't know if we've captured completely what a departure this is, how serious this issue is, that this administration has just sort of decided that naturalized citizens are sort of a class unto themselves who can be targeted for reasons in a different way than non-naturalized citizens can.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I think it's troubling. We just celebrated the 4th of July, and one of the things that really stands out to me is Jefferson, in drafting the Declaration of Independence, initially had the word subjects in there, and then scratched it out and changed it to citizens. And that's because recognizing, from the very beginning, citizenship is the heart of what it means to be an American. And taking that away or changing that is a gigantic departure.
Dean, what do you make of this? It seems pretty specific, this idea that you can lump critics or dissenters, and you and I have talked about this, dissent is what this country was born out of, into a different group of people you can target for their political views or their actions.
Very much so. I just want to say, Ali, I know you're a naturalized citizen. If they come for you, we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder.
Why'd you say that, man?
I'm sorry, but if they do deport you, I just want you to know I'm available on Saturday and Sunday mornings to host the show. I just want to put that out there because I'm a
Great, we solved one problem at least.
We're both Muslim. I think it would be kind of seamless. Here, I want people to know the memo from the Department of Justice doesn't talk about naturalization like as a laundry list. The words are, and I'm reading from it, prioritizing denaturalization, prioritizing. This is a priority of this administration to denaturalize people. And you went through some of the reasons in that memo, Ali. To me, that catch-all is concerning, but one that's even more concerning, they write in the memo, if you are a potential danger to national security, potential, not concrete, not imminent, but anyone is a potential danger to national security if you take it out and go, well, they're saying this now, but who knows where they're going to be. This administration is taking a page from Putin, where they have a law, if you criticize the war in Russia, you lose your citizenship. In Hungary, they just literally passed one in the last month to do the same thing Trump is doing now. We have it on the books. They want to expand it. They've done this in Cuba and Venezuela. It is a tool of autocrats. The goal is to punish a few people in a big picture spectacle and call self-censorship of others. It's about cracking down on dissent. That's all it's about.
And Cassandra, this is a big issue because some people have characterized dissent in the last few years as something that is bad because it's loud and it's protesty and whatever the case is. This is not complicated. It's July 4th. This country was literally formed on dissent. Common Sense by Thomas Paine is about dissent.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think that the intent here is to induce fear. So that people become too scared, so that they're afraid of dissenting and afraid of engaging in the political process.
Cassandra, I mean, what's the legal way of thinking about this? Because this is a memo, so I think a lot of my viewers won't understand. What's the legal weight of that? Is this the kind of thing that will work its way up to the Supreme Court, or is this a product of the Supreme Court's decision on the 13th Amendment and nationwide injunctions?
It will work itself up to the Supreme Court. I think the easiest way to understand it is to look at what happened in Trump's first term, because that's when he started this priority. In fact, at that time, he even created an office for denaturalization within the DOJ. And that's when I started researching the issue, because the first two people that they denaturalized and had a ton of press releases touting this were people who actually were average people. Who probably had no reason to expect or to think that they could be denaturalized. And that seemed incredibly worrying to me. And in this particular memo, that phrase maximal enforcement is what suggests to me that they're going to go after more cases like that, not cases of people that they're actually worried about being a national security threat, but cases that they can easily win to send a message to other people.
And Dean, this interesting part about this is encouraging. It's sort of using civil cases. Again, I'm not sure people register what the distinction is, but the standard is different.
It is also, since, and it's in the memo, they're going to do this civilly. That means you don't have a right to counsel. You can have a lawyer, but they're not going to be one provided for you if you can't afford it. We all know from the Law and Order show. Also, the idea the burden of proof is different. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's beyond preponderance of the evidence. And the problem I'm so concerned is that this Supreme Court has deferred to Donald Trump on issue after issue. And I fear that if Donald Trump makes examples of people they don't like what they're saying and says, we're taking your citizenship away, we're not putting you in jail, we're just taking your citizenship away, this Supreme Court will say that's okay. And look, in Russia, a population of 140 million, only 1,500 political prisoners, which is awful, but only 1,500. And that's enough to cause other people to stifle and self-censor. That's what Trump wants. A dictator doesn't want to put 20 million in jail. They want to put a few thousand in jail, make it visible, and the rest of us go like, it's just not worth it. Let's wait our time, and hopefully he goes away.
Cassandra, we often forget that denaturalization efforts during World War II didn't just target naturalized citizens. They actually eventually reached American-born citizens like those accused of draft dodging. And in response to that chaos, the Supreme Court stepped in. Justice Hugo Black wrote, quote, the very nature of our free government makes it completely incongruous to have a rule of law under which a group of citizens temporarily in office can deprive another group of citizens of their citizenship, end quote. The Supreme Court says this isn't really a thing, and yet it's a thing now.
That's exactly right. And that came from a very important case in 1967 that completely changed denaturalization. In the 50 years prior to that case that you read out, there were 22,000 people stripped of citizenship. In the 50 years after that, only 150. So that case was the case that kind of settled that denaturalization really is, as the court says, completely incongruous with our democratic system. Unfortunately, in a footnote, the court in that case left open the possibility that naturalization that was unlawfully procured could be undone. And that's a tiny little loophole that the Trump administration is trying to drive a Mack truck through. They are trying to put so many cases into that tiny loophole.
Yeah, and that's tricky, Dean, because literally unlawfully procured could mean anything to an error, from an error on your application, which happens, to, as you say, posing a threat to the country. I think Cassandra's point is, if it's the latter, at least there's an argument. If it's the former, you could sweep up a whole lot of people into this who don't deserve to be denaturalized.
Look, I don't want to scare anyone, but when you're citing a court decision from 1967, the Supreme Court, remember, Roe v. Wade was just 6 years after that, and this court had no problem overturning it. This court has had no problem overturning precedent. Instead of moving us forward, as most Supreme Courts have done in the modern era, towards more democracy, protecting democracy and freedoms, this court has gone backwards. I have little doubt, Ali, they will find 5 votes of the 6 Republicans on the Supreme Court to give Trump greater power to take people's citizenship away. We all talk about Declaration of Independence and yesterday's anniversary. When I read the Declaration of Independence this week, I no longer view it as a historical document. I view it as someone who can feel and sense the feelings of the colonists living under a brutal regime who rose up for self-determination and freedoms. And I have those same feelings right now, and I know many of our fellow Americans feel the same way.
Cassandra, historically, denaturalization was used. It was reserved for relatively serious cases, war criminals. Whether you agreed with the Red Scare idea, that there was some sense that these were, people of a certain class. This idea that we're broadening it out, how dangerous is that potentially?
I think it's very dangerous. And we did see a period of time in the pre-1967 era where citizenship was also politicized. This is the era where Emma Goldman had her citizenship stripped in what was really a very political case. And then we had a series of the Supreme Court cases walking it back. So I think what we're seeing is a return to an earlier era where citizenship is once again on the table as a political issue.
Thank you to both of you for your analysis this morning. Cassandra Burke Robertson is a law professor at the Case Western Reserve University School of Law. And Dean Obeidallah is the host of SiriusXM's The Dean Obeidallah Show, author of the Dean's Report on Substack, possibly a future host of the show now that he's outed the fact that I'm a naturalized citizen. Thanks to both of you.